I drive my car up to the lake as if there's someone to awake. I haven't been to bed for days, I live in a twilight haze. And I set my heart to the setting sun, and I hope that no one else has done it. And the drinks are never far, open up the bar. I miss you every single day. I wait until I'm done your way. I hate the way I stray into these days. I love the
Alrighty, so Erin, you're back in the hot seat, in the driver's seat, and it's a cool opportunity to catch up. And you're living a little bit further away from town now, or not?
No, I was just staying with my boyfriend.
Oh yeah. So welcome back to the podcast. We've got what's been happening for the last year or so. When I contacted you, you said we could talk about things that have been going on.
Yeah.
What's been going on?
Well, the last time we spoke, it was more about entering the mental health world.
That's right.
That's right. I've entered the loophole now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely got 2 feet in the room.
You had done a speech of some description or a talk?
Yeah, yes, I'd done the importance of funding NZEIPS, New Zealand Early Intervention Psychosis Society Board.
Yep.
Yeah, it was quite bizarre actually that we're sitting here now talking about that, because just the other week I actually got an offer to be on the board of NZEIP.
Cool.
Which is pretty surreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah.
And so since then, what other than that, what's the journey been like? Because you've obviously kept in connection with those people. Are these sort of like proper curriculum kind of studies that you've been doing?
Yeah, I've actually been doing my level 4.
Right.
I'm currently doing that at the moment. I've done my intentional peer support training and just everything that comes my way that helps.
Yeah.
Pretty much I say yes to, even if I'm internally shitting myself.
Right. I was going to say, how does that feel? Because, it's no secret that you've kind of gone through that yourself, like a lived experience, and now you're kind of looking at like the academic description of an experience that you've kind of lived through and a way of managing it and whatever. Like, what's it like reading that material and going far out?
It's a lot of thought-provoking stuff. Like, as a patient, you think you know it all. And then when you start actually getting into the whole mental health world and that, a lot of it is actually self-improvement. It's not actually about dealing with the other person. It's about how do you deal with the other person. And that's the thing I've found the most about all of this is, worldviews are interesting and, just internal processing. Like, the best way I explained IPS to somebody was you are sitting in a room talking about your thoughts and feelings. And it sounds bizarre because you are learning how to approach somebody or deal with somebody, but it's more about how calm can you remain in that situation without bringing your experiences or comparing yourself to that person. True. Yeah, and it's actually a lot harder than it sounds.
Yeah, it's kind of like, so you're sitting there kind of listening and, trying to quieten your own mind and hear what's being said.
Yeah, while still having compassion and understanding, but not taking over. It's actually really hard to do.
Yeah. So do they kind of like often in the academic world and whether it's a science or a social science, they have frameworks and formulas and sort of little flow charts. the objective here is for people to improve their well-being, presumably.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. At the moment, just because I'm only in the beginning of my studies, so I'm only realistically doing the about me part of the level 4, and then I will move on to scenarios and all that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
writing about yourself is interesting. It's hard when you got to navigate through the positive and the negative of your experience, and not make the negative your sole, story and all that. But it's that paradoxical thing, like you can't, I don't know, like you find the light in the dark. So it's, definitely makes you think about your values in life.
Yeah.
And what you think. You know what I mean?
It's real big picture, eh? And it sounds like it's almost like you are your first patient.
Yeah,
kind of
pretty
thing.
much. Pretty much. Well, learning self-care and all that is, or like the last podcast, talking to yourself better. As I said to you, I wouldn't talk to a friend the way I used to talk to myself.
Yeah.
For example. And that's I sit in front of the screen trying to write about myself. And it's just hard. Like, not that I'm full of negative, but my experiences are not all positive. So it's quite hard to take something light out of that.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of people who seemingly have not many problems can often fall into these traps. And like you say, self-talk, like it can be real negative. And Milton, you've always said that you've learnt to, be nice to yourself, like go easy on yourself, sort of, to a certain degree.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I practiced that for a while, just talking to myself how I would talk to a friend.
Yes.
And it's nice. I'm very nice to myself.
Yeah.
But, then maybe a little bit of negativity will come up, maybe even a self-loathing. All that's just natural.
Yeah, especially like dropping a cup of tea or something. And what's the first thing you say to yourself?
Yeah.
Idiot. Or,
Exactly.
It's not, oh, that was an accident. It's retraining that. It's very hard.
Yeah.
And it just takes a little bit of time. Like, say I did drop the cup of tea, 5 times. 1 time out of 5, I might swear and be negative towards myself. Like 4.5 times out of 5, but that 1/2, I'll go, don't worry about it. It looks kind of cool on the floor, doesn't it? That's artwork. And that just slowly flips around, and it becomes the dominant story in my head. So, I can drop a cup of tea and have a laugh straight off.
It's a journey.
It's a flip around.
Yeah. I'm glad that you got there, because it's hard to.
Well, I'm interested to see what where it goes from there.
Yeah.
But it's definitely preferable, and we ought not to be too hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because,
So, I've recently listened to a podcast where these people were talking about this exact thing, and I'll tell you what they said later. But what are your techniques for, or are there any sort of prescribed techniques which are well known within academia that can reverse this? And how quickly might one see results if they start sort of practicing some of those techniques? And what are those techniques?
It's honestly that cliche power of positivity. It's, catching yourself with the negative thoughts and reversing that with a positive thought or a positive spin, or changing the narrative of how your perspective was on a situation. And sometimes that can also come from just this right here talking, because my perspective and your perspective, we're both two totally different perspectives right now, but we're in the same room. We're experiencing the same thing.
Yep.
So it's just being more self-aware and just changing the narrative, which I know it sounds very cliche, but I guess the biggest thing at the end of the day is just knowing that you are your friend, you're with yourself for life. And There's 100 tools and techniques out there, and it's all about finding the one that is right for
Gonna
you.
work for you.
Yeah, because we're all unique individuals, and one box does not fit all, no matter how much seems like we do.
No, totally.
I found what works for me is like working out my own way. Like books and other people, that's real cool.
Yep.
But I love it when I just work out something for myself.
Yes.
It's like, that works, Mel. That's the one for me.
Yeah.
And then it really locks in.
Yeah.
And also it's kind of a self-agency. It's it's good.
Yeah.
And a lot of people value that highly. And one of the feelings I get, like I don't want to, judge people or anything, but sometimes I find like there's a necessity for people who are going through a hard time to maintain control, which is fair enough, right? That's just that's what normal kind of healthy people are doing anyway. They want to have ownership over their lives, and they want to have input as to what they're going to do with their lives. And I suppose it's easy for us to want to prescribe a solution quite quickly and perhaps not give them space to discover their own path or their own solution.
Yeah, there is a word that is evading me right now.
Is it evading?
No, I wish it was. There is a word.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep on talking.
Yep, cool.
Well,
My brain tries
this
to...
podcast that I heard the other day, they were talking about, one guy said, I learned that as a teenager. I learned how to be nice to myself as a teenager. And the other guy was in his late 40s, and he had to go into respite care.
Yeah.
And this was negative self-talk. Like, it was serious.
Yeah.
And it was obviously affecting all of his relationships, but it was massively problematic for him where it required. And he talked about it as if it was an addiction, a behavioural addiction. And like an addiction, alcohol or a chemical addiction, it gets worse over time. It doesn't stay the same.
Yeah. Because
you need more of that drug to get the same effect.
Yeah.
So his self-talk was getting progressively worse, and he needed to go into care to have it addressed. And at that point, he needed to be prescribed a method to put in practice to get himself out of it. And the method was, sorry, I'm talking a lot.
You are talking a lot.
The method was for him to, when something did go wrong, he needed to record himself talking to himself as a friend, as if it was a friend it had happened to, and then he sent it to his therapist. And, this was happening multiple times a day, that he would have to record himself. And it happened, but he was able to reverse that within months.
Yeah, the word, by the way, that I was looking
for
was rumination.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the stage in which you go into when you're in that, I don't want to say negative, but, when you're processing heavy things, that's the stage. And sorry, just to revert back, because that was frustrating me.
Yeah.
But
well,
yes,
a lot of
it's
these
in that
things,
stage you need to learn how to have better self-talk.
Yeah.
And it is that as well, with other people wanting to rush that of the rumination stage as well, which can actually further put you deeper into it, because someone's pretty much invalidating your own feelings when it comes to that, when they try and push you to so anyway, sorry, just reverting back.
No, that's cool. I mean, we want the best for people, but I think we need to learn what's best for ourselves first, and how to treat ourselves right, and then we can perhaps we've got more empathy when it comes to other people, and perhaps we're not so pushy when it comes to you should be doing this.
Sometimes we don't want what's best for ourselves.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Sometimes we want to hate on ourselves.
Yeah.
Hurt ourselves, and punish other people by punishing yourself, and all of that negative psychological stuff. So,
yeah, self-sabotage is probably one of the worst things to battle with, not just in the mental health world, just for anybody, to be honest. Like, even with my studies, for example, like, a few years ago, if I'd done this stuff and I've got an assessment due next week, old me would have freaked out and ran away from it, you know, and just been like, it's too hard, like, you know, like, I'm not cut out for this and all that sort of stuff. And it's been a battle shutting that voice up in the back of my head. It's just, self-sabotage is probably one of the hardest things to overcome while we're talking nicely to ourselves, because that is an internal battle all on its own. Yeah.
It seems like a coming-of-age kind of thing, almost, but not quite. Maybe it's sort of like, but it's definitely a maturity thing.
Yeah.
Learning and examining your values, your beliefs, your inner kind of thoughts, and keeping the good ones, throwing away the bad ones, and not sort of that idea of self-esteem. Maybe sometimes we just think, well, self-esteem means I'm always right, or something like that. But yeah, and we've got to actually be a little bit more sneaky, kind of careful, because, man, like, ideologies, thoughts, things, they can quickly become our enemy.
Yeah, so can capitalism and, you know, life.
Totally, Erin.
Yeah.
Like, money is, I think money is almost like a, what would you call it, like a parable or like a thing. Like, if you think about a wealthy person, you know, they can go through their house and they've got a house full of possessions, and they can sort of give and take and give and take and give and take because they've got this kind of wealth. Well, mentally, I think if you can kind of build up a mental wealth of, I guess, self-esteem, and then when the ideas come and go, you can choose what to keep and what to give. But I don't think everyone can.
That's it. It's also learning what part of your story and who you are you keep for yourself and what you put out to the world. Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
Because
totally.
some people kind of mentally they're they're in poverty.
Yeah.
And they can't be as choosy as other people over what they think and what they don't think, maybe. Like, perhaps they don't have as much control, or I don't know. Do you reckon or not? Is that too fluffy?
No, isn't it like what Jordan B. Peterson says, like when someone asked him about if he believed in heaven or hell, and he's just like, you know, you can see hell in a person when they're walking down the street. He believes that hell is how we can create heaven, or we can live in hell. And it's totally that concept of it doesn't actually mean we have to be dead or alive. It's like you get up in the morning and you see the sunrise. Yeah. A, is it beautiful? B, is it just another day?
Yeah.
You know, like...
Well, it's often both of those things, because you don't really want to swing too far into the fake positivity where everything is...
everything's all light and love.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that fake positivity is a negativity anyway.
Yeah, true.
It's got
it's full circle, right?
Yeah, it's got a hollow ring to it. It doesn't feel good. Yeah.
Cool. So...
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You've got to believe in the positive. Like, it's well and easy to just state one positive. Yeah. But, it's actually belief in self.
Yeah, it's that realism, but not pushing it too far.
Yeah, well, everything's a bit of a thin line, isn't it? Like, overindulging, not indulging enough.
Totally.
It's all balance. Balance is just very hard to navigate. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of balance, and I'm trying to work it out all the time. I agree.
I remember listening to something that Jordan... I love how you say Jordan B. Peterson.
It's really important. I don't know why the B is.
What does the B stand for?
Brains.
Yeah, Jordan Brains. Yeah, JB.
That's how I've always
JB.
seen it. Jordan Brain Peterson.
Yeah. He talked about the classic of a person who's so so depressed, and their room's all messed up, and their whole life's all messed up. And, they're in bed all day, and it's like they're trying to change their life, and it's like, man, I can't even get up to make my bed. I can barely even get up. So he's saying, keep on breaking down the action until you can find something that you actually can do.
Yeah.
And and he said, say if you're going to vacuum clean your room, but you get the vacuum cleaner out and you just leave it in the doorway for a couple of weeks, and you walk over the vacuum cleaner back and forth. But he said if you promise yourself that I'll just do like that corner of the room there, and that's it, I won't do any more. And you do the corner of the room, and then you get all but amped up, and you go, okay, I'm going to do the whole room. He's saying, don't do that. Stick to the promise you made to yourself. Just do that corner. Because what will happen is that you'll do the whole room, and then maybe you do something else as well, and afterwards there's a psychology inside of yourself that'll be really annoyed that you destabilised your world.
Yeah.
And then it's like a flip back, and you won't do anything for 2 months after that. You'll just go back to how you were, even worse.
Yeah.
So keeping to that little promise and just going, that's enough.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting.
It is. Well, it's that whole concept of one step is enough. We don't need to run before we walk. And I think that's just me, how I analyse that, the vacuum cleaner part. Like, when you said that, in my mind is like, do you leave the vacuum cleaner there so it's in your thoughts? Like at the doorwell, like for 2 weeks, is it there not for the fact that it's a pressure, it's so it enters your thoughts naturally. Do you know, like...
Well, there's a reality now. It
yes,
exists.
That's
and maybe not looking at it in a negative or a positive way, but just
it's
in
there.
a real... Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
There's just so many ways of looking at that. Like, you would see it like that, I would see it in a different way.
Yeah,
Dave
true.
would see it in a different way.
Yeah.
I might hate it every time I walk across it. Like,
That's it.
hate you.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, but it's still in your thoughts.
It is. And you've still gotten it out.
That's
and it's sitting there.
Yeah, and it's that whole
true.
thing of, is it a negative or a positive, and it's journeying with that. I just find that interesting.
Yeah.
that
Sometimes
whole-
I don't think it even matters if it's a negative or positive.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, I'm sick of negative and positive.
Yeah.
It's just a thought.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Screw negative and
And-
positive.
and
I mean, in
it's
some
so-
ways, it's a concept.
Yeah, it really is. And it's so binary as well. It's like black or white, negative, positive. But as we know, it's things like rumination can be good, can be bad, and yeah, there's a lot of other things going on.
Yeah. Well, rumination comes with a bad persona, I guess.
Reputation.
But for me, I find some of the most insightful times of my life have been in those stages of my life, because it is finding out that the vacuum cleaner sucks, but it sucks that dirty pile up in the corner.
It sucks in a good way.
Yeah.
So do you think you're able to reduce down some of the pillars of wellness? Like, I'm thinking of one would be perhaps honesty, and being honest with ourselves.
It's funny because there's 5 pillars of well-being.
Oh, right, okay.
Yep.
There you go. It's
There
been
we
done.
go.
Someone's
Yep.
done it.
Yep. No, I always forget them, but they're very important.
Yeah.
Connection is one of them.
Oh,
I can
yeah.
tell you off the top of my head. Now my internet's not working.
This should
so-
be one of those acronym things. I can look it up if you like, Obi.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting because when I look at people that are perhaps less than healthy, and I'm not suggesting. Well, I feel like I'm generally healthy, and I haven't had too many issues in life. But when I see someone on the street and things like that, we quickly make judgments, and we're sort of making and having a little conversation with ourselves about how they could improve their life. Because that's, we're thinking that if they were given the opportunity, they would choose to improve their life as well. And I suppose that's one of the first steps, them coming to the realisation that they would like to be upwardly mobile, so to speak. But then what takes over? Like, once that person has made that decision to gain better well-being. So what are some of those pillars that they might have to confront? Oh, did you find them?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you find
I looked
them?
it up. Is it PERMA? PERMA. Positive emotion,
Yeah.
engagement, whatever that means, relationships, meaning and accomplishment.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
That sounds about right, and there is a abbreviated, I think it is, connection with others, being physically active doesn't actually mean running marathons or triathlons, learning new
Bloody hell.
skills, giving to others, and that does not mean that you give your money, or it just
Yeah.
means like right now, we're at present, in the moment, we're giving.
We're all making a sacrifice to be here.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the fifth one is mindfulness, which is sort of the same as giving to others, but mindfulness is a completely different thing of, that one's a journey in its own,
Yeah.
of what mindfulness, what that means to me and what that means to you could, totally different realms, like,
Yeah.
just paying attention in the present moment would be the biggest thing that will come with wanting to go on like a mental health journey.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing, and then you'll
Yeah.
realise how many things are in the moment as well.
Yes.
It's-
Well, that's strangely enough. We often think we live in the future or the past or something,
Yes.
but in the present, that's where we're making those little decisions.
Well, a lot of people
Yeah.
live for destination happiness.
Yeah.
It's that whole, when I get the new job, when I move here,
Yeah.
when I turn,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's like, well, when you get there, how do you feel? Most people's worlds feel like it's over
Yeah.
because they lived for that one split second.
Yeah.
You know, like destination happiness, I used to live for it all the time.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait for next week. I couldn't wait for this to come up.
Yeah.
You know, whereas now it's just like, I'm just enjoying the tea.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying playing with the chord
Yeah.
here. You know, like, it's extremely warm in here.
I'm
I'm loving it.
Well, I actually have turned on the air conditioning.
Yeah, no,
so
it's
everything's
good.
getting a
Bit of a jungle
Yeah,
here. So
it's good.
getting a
humid.
bit fuzzy. That's now. What did you just say? Sorry, you were talking about how
It's
just
warm.
being in the present and stuff. So that's the vacuum cleaner, isn't it? It's sort of it is in the present. It's not going away.
Yes, yeah,
It's,
the vacuum
it's
cleaner's there in the doorway.
Because the
Yeah.
future is sometimes just purely a fantasy, and it's very easy for us to think, well, tomorrow I'll be successful, tomorrow I will start my diet, tomorrow I will make $1 million. It's just waiting there for me, and but today I'm just going to take it easy.
Yeah,
But-
today means sucks,
Yeah.
tomorrow means way better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yep. So how do you... Because that can be confronting, and it's hard to be honest, because everybody does have dreams and aspirations, and then when we realise that we need to do something and bring that dream into the present kind of, and start making those actions towards it becoming a reality,
Yeah.
that can be challenging as well. That can almost
Yeah.
be a little bit
yeah.
painful.
Yeah, I smiled a little bit because I thought of something that I was actually talking to my therapist about the other week when I told her about the board member position that I was offered in that, and I was having conflicting thoughts about it. Like my first reaction is, why me? You know, but the other thing is, yes, say yes. You know, like two voices at one time. Of course, I went with the yes instantly.
Yeah.
But even when I said yes, I felt a bit down about myself,
Yeah.
and not in a way that it was just that whole. It's also learning to accept that you deserve good opportunities because you're so used to life being shit. You know, that when good things happen, it's like, well, what's the catch here?
Yeah.
And that is a big part of retraining too. But I think I've lost what I was saying.
No, I agree. It's kind of weird, isn't it, when
Yeah.
a good thing happens, because that emotion is almost quite similar to a bad thing happening, and sometimes we can... I don't know. It's,
Yeah.
Maybe we find it a little bit disappointing, even when we do have success. Maybe it's not as good as what we thought it was going to be, and it hasn't changed our world.
Well, the public eye shows success as fun. and money and luxury and eating well, you know, where it's sort of not really like that at all. So,
it's actually the same as it was before.
No, it is. It's the same as it was before. And a lot of that stuff is just people trying to sell you stuff.
Yes.
Selling you their reality. You don't need
totally.
to buy into that at all.
Yeah.
But it is nice to eat well.
Yeah.
And all those things that you
Yes.
just said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever, but eating well is very nice.
Yeah, which has
Yeah.
become a luxury these days, though, to
Yeah.
eat healthy.
Yeah.
You know. But reverting back to something, when I was talking to my therapist about like that opportunity, for example, I explained to her how years ago I had read a quote and I understood it at the time, but it had shown my growth because now I understood it way different.
Yeah.
And it was people often miss opportunities because they come disguised as hard work.
Oh, yeah.
And that was me my whole life, is everything seemed hard.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, oh, that's too hard for me to do, not realise. But I'd complain, like, why don't I get anything? Why am I not handed anything? Well, because I wasn't working for it. And, like, now I see that whole quote, you know, as people often miss opportunities because it comes disguised as hard work.
Yeah.
I see it as the work part is the opportunity. You know, I see it completely different.
Yes.
But that's a part of my internal growth. But that was a big thing that came up on that conflicting, why me, but yes, you know.
Hard work is, it's, you know, it's a pain in the ass, but what do we achieve? Like, I think when something's given to us, whether it's, like even say $1,000, if I was to give you $1,000, it's not as valuable as what it would be if you'd worked for that $1,000. And I think in life is the same for many things. And that digging for it and
I got to challenge that though. Like, you know, like I just got to challenge that. Like, is it that it wouldn't be worth as much, or it's because when it's your own money, it's harder to justify spending it on yourself in a world that requires you to always put bills and adulthood first. You know what I mean? Just
maybe.
A different perspective on that. Like, because like I could work for $1,000 and have in mind that that's bills.
Yeah.
You know, but if I had $1,000 coming my way that, you know, it just, you know, wow, I woke up with $1,000 in my bank account, all of a sudden there's different opportunities. So it also is perspective with that one, and that's that thing again. We all have different perspectives, and it's like, I know what you're saying though. A lot of people would take that $1,000 and there'd be nothing to show for it at the end of the day.
I guess money is sort of something, totally. I get what you mean. And I think, but we do, I'm not saying getting given $1,000.
Oh, no, I was just saying
it'd be totally
now,
cool. It would have value.
Well, the new me is different. That's more like old me totally would be the same. $1,000, burn it. Like, well, you know what I'm meaning, like, because I didn't earn it. It's nothing. Yeah. But now, you know, like it.
But opportunities now come with responsibility and maybe a little bit more weight.
Yes.
And if you've kind of earned them, well, they come even more sort of special, don't they? They're kind of, But, okay.
Interesting, eh? Yeah, I think I just gave you something to think about.
No, I like that saying about, I've forgotten it already.
People often miss opportunities because it becomes disguised as hard work.
Well,
or comes
I don't know if you've seen that movie Ice Age, but
I've never heard of it.
Sid the Sloth has said, my mother always told me that bad news is just good news in disguise.
It's true.
Which is pretty funny.
It's true.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. Did Sid the Sloth talk real slow?
Yeah, he talked with a bit of a... I was
Sorry.
going to reenact it, and then I was like, I don't want to sound retarded, so...
So, cool. So we've got those pillars for people to perhaps... which are sort of... which have been identified as... sort of maybe truths that kind of guide someone into a better place, like well-being.
Yeah.
So to improve their well-being, if they have connections in place, if they have a little bit of kind of physical movement, because we are physical beings, we're machines, and that, contributes to our mental health.
Mindfulness. Mindfulness is
Mindfulness.
that power of positivity. That's what I call the mindfulness side.
And is it, so what about realistic, what about for the external person, the other person, the friend of the person who's growing, are they allowed to have any expectations of, we recently had a discussion and we talked about that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I suppose you could say, as a counsellor or a therapist, you're kind of, what's their job? Is it to lead a horse to water?
No, it's to give the water to the horse. Not feed the water to the horse so that the horse has the opportunity to drink the water. It's not about making the horse drink. It's about the concept of being in a desert and there is no water.
Yeah.
And it's like depression. You're in a desert and the water is light. Again, this is just my way of explaining it, but it's to offer the light in the room. You can't make somebody see it. You can't make somebody feel it.
Right.
All you can do is make sure that you are the light in the room, and that's the way that I see the water and the horse and the desert. But someone can see it a completely different way as well. But it is to give the opportunity for the horse to have the water, because without the water, what's it got? You know what I mean? We need it. But if we're that far depressed and that self-destructive or whatever, we don't know that water is what we need.
Or whether it exists, or where
to find it. It's
a
hard question that you asked, and I'm sorry if I didn't completely answer it. But
there's something I often think about, the expectations, because I feel sometimes I fall into this where I have an expectation how much the horse should drink and how fast the horse should drink it, and if the horse isn't improving, so there's only so much we can do about this horse.
I'm imagining this horse in therapy.
Poor horse, eh?
That was going back to the Jordan Peterson thing we were talking about before. It's like, how much do you feed the person before they rebel? But even if a depressed person, they won't realise this, but they can breathe. They can take one breath.
Yes.
They're so lucky to all just take one breath.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like that last time when I was here, I was telling you guys about the movie Click, and what depression was like for me was when he was in the fast forward of pressing the remote of his life.
Yep.
And he was only in certain aspects of present moment because he was doing that destination happiness.
Yeah,
he was living for the promotion, this and that he lost the family, he lost the present, he lost the reality of who he was.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's hard.
Yeah.
When you're in that, because you, as you say, you don't notice those things that you have. You don't know that. Like I said before, in the morning when you see the sun rise, is it beautiful or is it just another day?
Yeah, and why would you want to accelerate that? Yeah.
Well, because your current reality sucks.
But you don't.
Yeah, I suppose so.
You can stay in a reality if you want.
Yeah.
You can make it worse.
Yeah.
Well, that's
your prerogative.
And things tend to either die or they grow. And wellness, I feel like, is it's often dying or growing in people.
Gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this for people to
Don't
hear.
say it, Erin.
Anyway, so there's a song called "The Rose" by Bette Midler.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know it?
Mm-hmm.
You know
Yeah,
it?
of course,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm glad we all know it.
Yeah.
So there is a line in there where she says, some say love it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. And then there's that part where she says, it is those who cannot take or give, do not know how to take, or whatever. There's some beautiful lines in that song, and I totally get what she means in that.
Go, Milton.
That.
You don't need to sing it.
There's quite a lot of lyrics here.
I know.
Something
what
about
bit do you want me to look at, Erin?
a razor.
No, it is something about cannot seem to give. Those who cannot take, or it's that line.
Yeah.
It's the soul that cannot take. The,
You
know the line
yeah,
I'm
definitely.
talking
I mean,
about, or something like
yeah.
that. That never learns to live.
Yeah.
It's the soul afraid of dying that
Yeah.
never learns to live. That's
Yes.
the
Oh,
line.
I just found it. I just found it just as you said it.
Awesome.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
line is the whole thing of what you just said. You know,
wow.
Yeah, I love that song
that's
because
cool.
the lyrics, if you listen to that song, it's life. That is life. That whole song, it's crazy.
That's what's awesome about music.
Yes.
So I think, there's like the risk-reward sort of ratio from a financial point of view. You know, you've got you invest money, there's so much risk, but there's opportunity for reward. Well, in life, if you want to have connections and relationships with people, there's a risk.
Yeah.
We might get hurt. We will get hurt.
Yeah.
And then navigating those things and feeling comfortable about them.
Yeah.
So if we are too afraid of, what was it, living?
Soul afraid of dying.
Afraid
cannot
of
seem
dying.
to live.
Yeah, I suppose if we fear too much, I mean, there's nothing stopping any one of us locking ourselves
You're trying
up.
to hold on to life too much, so you can't be free.
Yeah,
to
you're
move.
just killing yourself.
You're like this.
Yeah.
Uptight, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
paradox.
So the thing
And
you're
we
frightened
miss out
of,
on.
you become.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's multiple lines in that
No,
song.
I know. I'm going to have a read of that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. It's full of so many lines that I could quote on just life in that song. Yeah.
But at the end, you become the rose, right?
Yeah,
Is it like
right.
wisdom and resilience
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
of that? But obviously you've got to go through the winter.
The winter, yes.
But you might not make it through.
Yeah.
You might die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it say at the end? It's the seed beneath the...
Far beneath the bitter snows lies the seed that with the sun's love in the spring becomes the rose.
Yes. It's that whole, we all go through seasons, you know?
Totally.
And as I was saying earlier, in my rumination stages are some of the best light
Exactly.
I've ever found.
Yeah.
You know, but I had to go through that to
Yeah.
understand that I could breathe. You know, that I could breathe, and not only could I breathe, I could actually choose the direction in which I wanted to walk. And not only that, I learnt the value of, singing. You know what I mean? And all that sort of stuff. And it all came from that one breath, you know. But yeah, life is just a journey, right?
Yeah, totally. Reminds me of Pink Floyd, The Division Bell as well, and they've got a song about coming back to life as well, and going through quite a large amount of introspection, and which just causes paralysis almost, and then, at the end of the album, I think the song Coming Back to Life is about this person sort of realising what they thought was, going to be beneficial or protect them or give them whatever they wanted was the thing that was kind of killing them.
Yeah.
It's so subtle and deadly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like you said before about opportunities.
Yeah.
You can... Well, yeah, it's not just depression, it's just even in state of mind, like you just don't see them in that time. Or money, going back to money, I can be totally wrong, but this is my perspective of growing up with something that I've learnt. I grew up pretty poor, with the answer always being we can't afford that for most things in life.
Yeah.
And as I got older, I realised that actually, no, I can afford that. And it wasn't actually about the money.
Yeah.
The money was just the opportunity. And I changed that about myself.
Yeah.
Instead of going, I can't afford that.
Totally.
It's more like, well, what can I gain from that? I took the whole concept of money controlling and dictating what I could and couldn't do. And I found a lot of myself changing in that. There's things that I brought for myself that I could not justify 5-6 years ago. And I didn't think, I know it's just a material thing, but it did create some change for me. And it was like, well, actually, no, I deserve to have nice things too. Why should I not have nice things, you know? And I also read somewhere, I heard something and someone said something about seize the opportunities that you always thought you were I've ruined it already.
Maybe not worthy of.
Yeah, that's it, and that's what we get told. Like I get people look at my tattoos, and a lot of, like, I remember I was building, right, and I used to be a joiner, and I'm building in this multi-million-dollar house, and at the time I only had this done here, and the lady's like, "Wow, they look expensive," and I'm standing in this lady's house, and I'm just like, wow, I've just done thousands of dollars of roofing for you, and you're telling me my tattoo is expensive. And then it's that concept, is it expensive or for me? Is it expensive for me to have? And that's what I started realising. Whenever I'd get something nice, most people would have a negative compliment. It would be like, how did you get that?
Yeah.
Or, how did you afford that? And, you know, and it's that pressure of people box you in. You know, of like, when you're in that poor thing, you got to retrain that of like, actually, I deserve that opportunity just like that person there. But you know, and money is a big restrictive. And I changed my concept of what money was to me. And I took it away as, you know, money is restricting and it's something that only, you know, rich people have. And I realised, though, money actually means nothing but opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why earlier when you said that $1,000 thing, that's why for me it would would be different. That the $1,000 I wouldn't have a responsibility to have to pay the bills. I could go and pay for something fun or a hobby that I couldn't justify previously to do. But yeah, sorry if that didn't make any sense.
No, it totally made sense.
It made total sense.
And money and thoughts. Maybe it wasn't a great comparison to make, but I sort of see, some people are very wealthy in their positivity and in their thought life, and they don't hold back from the enthusiasm of life, and they seem to be quite wealthy in the way they think. Like they it's not that, like you said, I don't think I deserve this, or I'm not worthy of spending that on myself. And we think in the same thought life, well, I'm not worthy of thinking that I could have this opportunity and stuff like that, like in a thought world, sort of, in the mental world.
Yes.
And some, some like poor families, they're brought up to believe they're not worth it.
Yep.
You're not worth it in the society. Whereas, like, I don't know, maybe an upper middle class family that's connected into like nice schools and stuff, they're taught that they've got an entitlement.
Yeah.
And society's here for you.
That's right. So I think even
it's
thinking,
massive to overcome
that,
where you think you're not worth it, and it's a total.
Yeah. Well, it transcends financial things into the mental thing where. Who are you to have that thought that you can be great, or you could be a surgeon? Right. Who are you to think that way? So parents, maybe by saying we can't afford that or you can't have that, maybe mentally we start trimming our horizons and sort of saying, well, who am I to have that thought that my life could be good? Yeah. That's the comparison I was sort of wanting to make.
Is there any difference between that person brought up in the upper middle class connected life and the person brought up in the poor class? No, they're just the same people.
They are, but the middle had more opportunity.
No, that's right, but they've been taught different.
That's it.
And in the middle class, they've got more opportunity.
And we can challenge those.
It's falling away today, a little bit more, but it's still obviously prevalent. But
Yeah, I found that thing, by the way. So that quote, explore, but for you. Wander down the paths that have so long piqued your curiosity. Try things you once felt like other people were entitled to, but you'd never given yourself permission. Be that for yourself, because no one will come up to you and randomly give you the green light. And I loved it because
Yes,
it was like,
yes.
you know, what we've
Yeah,
just
yeah,
been
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about,
yeah,
that's it, you
yeah,
know,
100%.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And no one in reality is going to come up and give you $1,000 either.
That's exactly it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
are the person that's
That's not
going
true,
to...
man. Weird stuff can happen.
Oh, well,
That is
yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah.
That
it
is
can.
true.
And
Yeah.
look,
That is
I'm
very
all
true.
for it.
Yeah.
If someone wants to come up to me and give me $1,000.
Yeah, David, I'll give you my bank account details after.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine, she literally said, "Let's go and spend $1,000. Like, let's go and spend it today."
Yeah.
And we were sort of wandering around, wondering what to buy. I think we ended up buying an expensive meal, and we just totally blew it. But yeah, it can happen,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
especially in like rich people's
Yeah.
realms. $1,000 is just nothing.
$10.
That's right.
10 cents.
Yeah.
And it probably, you would learn something from doing
But they're
that.
not just going to throw
Yeah.
it away because they quite value money. But
Yeah.
yeah, it can happen.
It can.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
might happen today.
Well, $15 can turn into $4 million, so...
Can it?
Wow, you play lotto?
Crazy investment. Oh, right. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. So you have done... What's your assignment about, by the way?
Myself.
Ah, right.
Yeah, that's why it was hard to want to talk about it.
Classic.
Yeah, honestly, just
Yeah.
stuff we've been talking about, lived experience, family,
Yes. Yeah.
health, and how that influences who I am and how it influences how I work with people in mental health.
Yeah.
And it's just a bit hard to put it into structure. Like, it's easier doing it right now, chatting, because I don't feel like I'm initially as such talking just about me. I'm just giving a bit of my thoughts, but I'm not actually, you know what I mean? We're not sitting
Yeah,
here.
we're bouncing off each other.
Yeah.
I was just reading a book written by Chanel Miller, but she was raped on a campus in Columbia University, I think, in America. And she was raped by some like sports star, up and coming sports star, and everybody just wanted to dismiss it. The system just wanted to dismiss it, but she didn't want to, and so she went on a journey of about 3 years to like fight this. And one of the parts of her journey was just doing that massive introspection and writing it out. And she said it was so hard doing that. It was like really brutal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I've heard that story.
Yeah, she's kind of famous, and
Yeah.
she wrote this book, and she wrote a testimony which got into the media, and it's like she's a very good writer, and she's a good artist as well. And yeah, it's kind of went viral, it went on the
That's
news
right.
channels, but yeah, she said that was so hard, hooking into emotions and writing them out. It's just vicious.
It would
brutal.
re-traumatise her.
Yeah, it's very traumatising.
It would-
Totally.
Yeah. I've found that with certain things that I've had to... obstacles that are in the mental health world and the reality of assessments and stuff like that, and the assessment that I'd done that actually caused my psychosis a couple of years ago, like, that to me was far more traumatic than the years of sexual abuse that I had endured, which is such a fucked up sentence, you know, like, or concept to make, because, you know, but it's you're purging through suppressed emotions, and not only that, your body has purposely protected yourself from them, and you got to be all right, I've got the key now, I've found the chest, let's open it up and let's see what Pandora's box has, and I got to find the hope at the bottom. You know, it is far more traumatic reliving it in current reality than sometimes enduring it. And as I say, I know how fucked up that sounds.
So
but
what do you think? Do you think, say one day in the future, if you've got a client who, you're needing, so is there a necessity to kind of lead them into that, knowing full well that it's going to be a painful experience, but you're going to come through it out the other side, or do you feel that it was a damaging experience that could be done differently or better? Or
my experience could have been done so differently, and that is sort of why I sit here today, and I want to change the cycle or more the jumping through the ropes
Right.
to get the help you need.
Yeah.
It's that whole, I may sound like I'm going off here, but it's like the court system. Sometimes it feels like it's there to protect the offender than it is the defendant.
Yes.
And it's you're always having to explain yourself about why you are like that, but they get to just be like, prove it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's sort of that whole, it feels like you're inside a court case when you're doing that sort of stuff. And you know damn well that person sitting there ruined you. And they're sitting there like, did you get that on camera? Did you get that written down? Do you know what I mean? And that's what traumatizes people more. Well, in my experience, anyway.
That's exactly what Chanel talked about. 100%.
Yeah.
She said that was
So do we think?
It's hard.
Do you think that that's a bad thing? I mean, the justice system and that we
mental
have,
health, they're almost the same damn thing.
So
yeah,
innocent until proven guilty is a foundation of that kind of system. And is there a way that we can do it better, or
it's just internally?
Because partially
we just need to be better in ourselves, and then we can make other things better. We can sit here and talk about all the injustice in the world, but if we're walking past the litter on the street and just bitching about it, how good are we to fixing the problem? Is that a good analogy of explaining what I'm trying to say? Sometimes I talk in metaphors on that because, like, English is just hard sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Metaphors are powerful.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Erin, I have to open the cafe in 1 minute.
Oh, I don't see anybody out there, so I think we can get away with 2 more minutes of conversation.
We can fit a lot into 1 minute.
Yeah. Oh no, that's
Yeah.
given me heaps to think about,
Yeah.
and I'm really pleased to hear your journey and like the next stage that you're kind of embarking upon, and how that's...
Well, it's been a crazy year
Yeah.
since I've seen you guys, like, just for myself, of my own journey. It's been interesting. And just to go back real quick, you said about, like, how to help people in that sort of situation, and it goes back to that whole thing. You can't help them unless they want to tell the story.
Yeah.
And you can't push somebody to tell their story or force them to tell their story. And it's that whole, for me, getting to where I am, I'm at a point where talking about it, I don't get that hard to breathe feeling, just as I said before, explaining what happened to me as a child, to the trauma of going through that. Like, I didn't get that sweaty feeling or the whole, that's heavy, and that's good for me, but it took years of tears, of sweat, of migraines, of hours alone, of those rumination for me to get to the positive. And that's the part that the world doesn't see the most, and that is the hardest part of the self journey and that's where the self-talk is the most powerful tool you could ever have on any recovery journey. But that's just my view as well, though. Like, I feel like self-talk is the most powerful thing you could ever do. And then one day, who knows? Not everybody needs to tell their story. Sometimes somebody living is them, like, living in despite of, you know what I'm
totally.
saying. But everybody's different, and some stories, though, I think they give some people a better reality or perspective of how easy sometimes life can be. Like, life can be really hard, but sometimes it's that opportunities thing. We miss opportunities because we're too busy feeling crap about ourselves,
Yeah.
I don't want to leave the podcast on negative notes. I'm
No, it's not at all
something
negative.
positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just reality. It's cool.
Yeah, well, reality is also trying to raise.
I had a relative who went through a bit of mental illness and all that sort of stuff, like years and years and years ago. But I remember him saying, I asked him sort of what's the key to getting through all this sort of stuff, and he said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. He said that's the key.
Yeah.
how you get that horse to drink, I haven't got a clue.
Well, it's that thing. You just open the curtain in the room, you know? Like, eventually they're going to get out of bed on their own terms. But if there's no light in the room, it's just a dark room. You know? And that's the concept of you can't go open the window and go experience the sunlight, you know? But you can show in the distance that if you want to, there is a different view out there. But it's that thing of, we can't walk someone's journey for them. We can only walk beside them. It's such a... it's a hard one to navigate, walking beside somebody. And, again, it all comes back to where you are in your own journey, what your beliefs are, what your values are, all that sort of stuff. Values is just a big thing as well when it comes to personal growth and learning your values, because some people don't know what their values are until life strips them of everything, and then all of a sudden it's like, actually, no, I value common courtesy, I value connection, you know. Someone else will be like, oh, I value my job, and that's cool, but somebody else's value could be connection, you know, and that doesn't make that person's less credible or less important.
No.
But viewpoints, I think, of mental health is more outside of the whole capitalism and work thing and more internal. It's just a massive internal project.
And like Milton, you often quote that to guy and say, you know, culture's not our friend. And I think...
Oh, Terence McKenna.
When we're constantly being sold things, it does warp our...
Well, it gives you a bit of breathing
perspective.
space to see, I don't actually have to buy into this stuff. I don't have to do any of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we live in a society that allows us to, you know, be reasonably free. So, you know, you don't have to... But, you know, some of that stuff's still good, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
For sure.
Yeah.
Out of doubt.
Erin, would you like any breakfast this
I would
morning?
actually love a breakfast, which is bizarre for me at
Here we
7
are.
o'clock in the morning. Thanking you.
Alrighty.
Well,
Thanks for coming in.
No, thank you guys. I always learn something.
Yeah, same.
I always,
So do we.
I love bouncing off you guys.
It's fun.
It's good.
You just got that in.